Let me tell you something.
You're listening to QSJ, digging up the underground.
Let's get back to the mix.
DJ. Here we go again. Good morning, radio. Believers, if you're listening on the line, the siren sings for all. The telegraph, a backbeat for the times. And in the underground is printing up the truth. An eye is watching over London. Someone else is watching you. And on the radio they'll tell you what to do. A case of fire, then toss a match at you. And then everybody sings, we are revolving from night to morning. And I wanna believe in something spun out of darkness somewhere under the aurora. I try to believe in one thing. Guess I felt so ashamed to see the people.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here on QSJ Radio, home of the unsigned artist. Today's guest is very different, but very relevant. Very relevant, meaning in things that people either sometimes disagree with, people have just seems to forget that there's things you got to do before you do things. So, before we begin, a quick note: the views and opinions you're about to hear are informational purposes only and should not be taken as legal advice. If you have specific questions about your own immigration situation, please consult a qualified attorney. Our guest today is Andy Semotiuk, a U.S. and Canadian immigration lawyer practicing at Pace Law Firm in Toronto, a man whose career spans more than 4 decades across 2 countries. He's practiced law in Los Angeles, New York, and in Canada, and even worked as a United Nations correspondent, covering immigration and human rights for Southern News Services of Canada. Andy has published 5 books, has been a Forbes contributor for over 10 years, with over 1 million readers, and a distinguished Toastmaster and senior advisor to the Center of Eastern European Democracy. His latest book, Solomea, a star of opera's golden age, tells the remarkable story of his great-aunt, Solomea, which I'm not going to say the last name because I'm going to mess it up. A world-renowned soprano who rose from humble beginnings to global stardom, breaking barriers and glass ceilings along the way. The book has received 2 literacy awards and praised from Opera Canada and other publications, and is available on Amazon and Apple Books. Born and raised in Edmonton, Andy has spent half of his life in Canada and the other half here in the United States. Today, he lives in Toronto with his wife, Anne, and they have 2 adult children and 2 grandchildren. Today, we'll explore his insights on current immigration policies, changes like something like the proposed $15,000 visa bond pilot, as well as his unique journey in law, writing, and storytelling. Andy, welcome to QSJ Radio.
Thank you so much, Dave. And I can see by how you introduced me, you're very professional, and I'm very happy to be with you here today.
Oh, I had to be, Andy, because let me tell you, as soon as you hit me up, I was like, wait, this is a big topic. This is serious. And there's more to this than just what you do for people. Is also some things that you want to make sure people know about your family, which is really big.
Right.
So you've lived in and practiced law extensively in both the United States and Canada. How does this dual perspective shape how you view today's immigration challenges?
Well, it's interesting that we're starting there. And the way I could encapsulate a thought on that subject is when I worked at the UN, I had the opportunity to attend live news conferences in New York, where I saw some of the world's top leaders give speeches on whatever was happening at that time.
Yeah.
I would then leave the building, pick up the media, the newspapers and the television, and see a representation of what happened, which would not be exactly the same as the reality.
Wow.
And then I'd travel up to Canada and see the Canadian version of what I saw live and what was presented in the U.S. Again, slightly different in terms of tone and outlook. And the same sort of difference or differentiation applies to working in the U.S. and working in Canada and looking at, well, in my case, immigration law. The Canadian system is different than the American system, and it gives you insights. For example, Canada is a little more friendly when it comes to refugee law, asylum law, for example, than the U.S. Surprisingly so, but that's true.
It is.
And, that's just one example of, for example, where there are differences.
Which is almost as if I knew that was going to get there, because media has this way. And that gets me into something, because you play a role in media.
Yes.
As a correspondent and, of course, a contributor to Forbes. And you've written on immigration. But what role do you think journalism plays in shaping public opinion on immigration policy? Because as you saw, you were in there, saw things, you go outside, and it's not... What are you guys talking about? That's not what happened.
Yeah. That's a critical question. Dave, you've hit on the button, like on the key button here. I think the role of journalism is to tell people the truth, whether they like it or not, and whether the people in power like it or not. Speak truth to power, that is to say, ask questions that are important but not always welcome to those who are in power, and to tell the truth as you see it as a journalist to the people you are communicating to, the people who are reading or listening to you in terms of recounting what you saw, what you heard, etc. And in my case, just for example, I was back in the UN a little while ago. Carter was there, Ford was there, Kissinger was there, Waldheim was there, Idi Amin was there, people like that were there. And I remember posing questions that were not very welcome, shall we say, to people of that nature.
Oh, my.
But they're the ones in power. I'm just asking the questions.
Yeah.
But that's a critical role. And it's true today. This very day, it's even more important that journalists play that role.
More recently here, there's like this $15,000 visa bond, right?
Yeah, right.
From your experience, is it likely this is going to address overstays, or it might have unintended side effects? And for those who don't know what the $15K visa pilot is, explain that as well.
Sure. Well, let's start like this. People come to the U.S. to visit, sometimes for Disneyland, sometimes for a baseball game, sometimes to see family, etc.
Yeah.
To come to the United States, they need a visa usually given at a U.S. consulate overseas. So they apply for permission to come to the U.S. and they get a visa. It's called a B1, B2 visa to come to the United States. In some instances, no visa is necessary. There are countries who are so-called visa exempt. These are countries such as Canada or countries such as Europe, people from Europe, Australia, Japan. These are countries that are visa exempt. But for all other countries, you have to get this visa, which means you apply at the consulate. The idea behind this $15,000 visa bond is that from those countries, that is to say, mostly from non-visa exempt countries, such as Africa, Asia, etc., the people who are coming are more prone to stay longer than their period of authorized stay. In other words, they are what they call overstays.
Overstays, okay.
So you come, usually you get a permission to come for 6 months with a visa. But very often, these people stay longer than 6 months. So Congress, in its wisdom, decided, we're going to penalize these guys by forcing them to come up with at least up to $15,000 bonds, meaning security for the government of the U.S., that if they don't leave when they're supposed to, those bonds will cover the cost of rounding these people up and getting them back to where they belong. Is it going to work? No, not in large measure. Some authors that like me, who are writing on the subject, have said it's basically a penalty for countries that are, not visa exempt. That these people, the poor of the poor, the downtrodden, etc.
It's as if you're trying to keep people out. Yeah,
it's a penalty. So the key question is, why are they coming? And is it a good reason? If they're coming for someone died, someone's in a hospital, grandfather's sick, these are good reasons for coming to America. And you have to judge the people on the spot. You'll know on the spot. Now, okay, you can't don't judge everybody, the book by its cover. Right? You can't judge everybody just simply on, first look. But this is a challenging problem. And to some extent, it may work, because if you've got $15,000 on the line, you don't want to lose it. So you'll want to leave before the time for leaving goes by. But it seems like kind of a hairy scheme to me, is the way I would put it. I think it's been discussed before. It's not a new idea. It was, in past administrations, it was discussed. But it is true that most people who are in the U.S. in unlawful status, that is to say, undocumented people, are overstays, meaning they came legitimately, but then did not go back when they were supposed to.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make one final comment on this.
Of course.
It's a matter of follow-up, a good system of follow-up in terms of watching what the time period is and making sure the person leaves. That's a bureaucratic problem that needs to be fixed.
And if you guys are just now paying attention to this, this is supposed to start on the 20th of this month, August 2025, with 1 year of duration. You guys,
it just so happens that FIFA, the World Soccer Cup, is taking place in America, and there's the Olympics coming up. So it could be a cash grab.
It could be. I didn't even think about that.
Oh yeah,
because they come in the thousands.
Yeah.
And they can literally make a good amount of money.
A good buck. Oh yeah.
Wow. And they stay for a little bit. Trainings and hotel stays, whatever. Oh my God. Money makes the world go round, right? Yeah. With your investor immigration expertise, how could policies like this affect global investment patterns and cross-border movement?
Well, the U.S. has a EB-5 investor visa policy, And basically it says, if you got the money, we got the time. Meaning, if you have $800,000 minimum to invest for 5 years, you get it back at the end of the investment. It's not lost. We'll give you a green card, meaning permanent residence. So in the United States, there are U.S. citizens, and then one level below that is permanent residence. U.S. citizens have a passport, can travel, and that passport can be in the Army, in the Navy, in the...
You know, I always wondered that when I was doing my taxes. Like, what kind of citizen am I? Like, and
You're
they have,
a
like,
U.S. citizen.
There's seriously, like, 6 categories of...
Yeah. Below that is permanent resident with a green card. That's what we're talking about now, EB5 investor. And below that is, for example, a student or a worker who's, a student who's at, let's say, UCLA or Berkeley or whatever, or a worker who's working for Microsoft or, Apple Computer or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then below that is, you have refugees, sort of asylum seekers.
Yeah.
And then there are these undocumented. They say there's 11 million undocumented immigrants in the United States. About 2/3 of them have been in the U.S. for 10 years or longer.
Yeah, of course.
And I think quite a large number are
I think I know a few of them. Like,
same here.
Come on. This
That's hilarious.
You've helped over tens of thousands of clients and written extensively on immigration. Could you share a memorable case that reflects the human side of these laws?
Yes, I can. It's funny. I was asked that question before, and I could not call up this memory. But now that you're asking, after the program, I thought, oh, gee, why didn't I say that? One day, a beautiful couple contacted me. The guy was a psychiatrist from New York. The woman was also a PhD, also in psychology, professor from Canada. They met at a conference in Vancouver, a psychology conference in Vancouver.
This is not like a bio, right? It almost sounds like one.
No. They fell in love, and the guy wanted this. They married, and he wanted to sponsor her to come from Canada to the U.S. Seems like a slam dunk, no problem. What's the problem? The problem was bureaucracy for some reason, and there were no security issues, but there was a medical question. It didn't block the immigration, but the medical question was the woman in Canada had cancer and was actually dying.
Wow.
So it was a question of timing for this couple to be together in the final days of her life in New York with the psychiatrist. And I struggled as best I could, valiantly, perhaps, if you could say a word, to get her into the United States as soon as possible so that they could have time together. But it was caught in bureaucracy somewhere. And first I tried, I went through the sort of procedural wrangles that you normally do, write letters, contact the U.S. immigration, the consulates and all that, or whatever. Wasn't working. I contacted my fellow lawyers, the American Immigration Lawyers Association. They have this liaison with the State Department. There was a State Department issue because, when you're immigrating from Canada to the United States, you have to go through an appointment at a U.S. consulate where they question, well, is this a real marriage? How is it that you're coming to the U.S.? Yeah. How'd you meet this guy? Is he for real?
Yeah, all that. It's like customs on steroids. Relax, bro.
Yeah. So she had to go to Montreal for an interview, and I was trying to schedule this interview. And it just, I don't know, there's something that wasn't working. I contacted the senators in New York, both of them. There's a female senator, and then there's Chuck Schumer, and the female one, I forgot her name right at the moment, Christian something. They were helping, writing letters. Hey, come on. She didn't make it.
Oh, no.
Yeah. It was, it was a crestfalling moment to find out, she died before we could get her through. Crazy. In my mind, crazy. If you have now, okay, you can sound the alarm, but you have to have the goods to sound the alarm.
Yeah.
I had the goods. I had the medical reports showing this lady was dying, the system just couldn't mobilize quick enough to get the paperwork through. And the problem is, like, there's millions pushing through, trying to get. It's like you're trying to get into a state. Tell you, I was in Argentina and I saw those guys are crazy about soccer. They're nuts. It's a religion there. And I was going into the stadium, and there's like 100,000 people trying to clog into two entranceways. It was massive chaos. That's what this immigration case was like. I felt the same way.
Wow.
There were all these people trying to get through, and I'm in there trying to get this case through. And these people were so nice. The guy he's still around, by the way. I can't say the name or anything, but it's just, a disappointment.
That brings me to my next question, because I think like there's so much empathy that is undervalued in immigration decision making. And as someone who has spent like time in international policy and law, do you think empathy is like taken out of the equation?
I'll tell you this, Dave. When I started practicing immigration law, I could pick up the phone. I was not a member of the American Immigration Lawyers Association. I was just a young pup that just got into the business. I'm in Los Angeles. I got a case. I figure, this thing's not working. I'll pick up the phone the director of the California Service Center.
Stop.
I phone the director from a payphone. Hi, I'm Andy Semotiuk. I'm a lawyer. My case is stuck. Could you help me out? What's the name of the case? Give me the number. Hang on a sec. You could get things done like that then.
Yeah.
Today, you couldn't phone the USCIS if it's mission impossible to get through.
Wow.
So there's that element, Now, on the other side of the fence, I understand if I'm working in the USCIS and there's 1 million people trying to reach me, I want to put up some barriers because otherwise they're going to slaughter me, So they do have these barriers. And common sense is missing. Common sense. And in that context is humanity. Like this case I just mentioned, look, the woman's dying. Do we have to go through A, B, C, D? It's like this. I'm going A, B, C, D, and the person on the other end's going A. I said, okay, A, B, C, D, and he's A. Okay, A. Okay, now B, 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 B. I'm going B, C, D, D, and he's going B, B, B. There are moments in life when you have to throw,
policy away.
Common sense.
Throw it away.
I say, okay, is this the right way things should work? Don't violate the law, but work with the law and use your common sense. And it's a test of your own character, your own humanity. In your life, Dave, and in mine, people phone me and ask me to do things that I don't want to do, and I'm too busy to do. And I haven't got the time for it. You're not going to even pay for it, And I'm 5 cases behind. But, he needs his dog from, so-and-so or whatever, right? You stop, you think, oh, damn it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's help this guy with the dog. Right?
Let's get the dog in, man.
Whatever it is. It's just like, that's the way it is in life, man.
If you guys are just tuning in, we're talking to immigration lawyer and author Andy Semotiuk. I'm saying it correct?
Yes, you are exactly right. Yeah.
Let's go. I'm good. We've talking about experiences, things that are currently going in. One of his Forbes articles that he wrote, I think you did publish one about last week as well. So We'll talk about that here in a second.
Sure.
You authored 5 books,
right.
But I want to talk about this star of opera's golden age.
Right.
It's deeply personal.
Mm-hmm.
Not for nothing, Andy. It is a long time ago. What inspired you now to tell your great aunt's story?
Okay. I'm glad you went to that theme because I know you're in the music area. And people maybe wonder, what the hell is this guy, this immigration lawyer, talking about? This is a music program.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk music. So I got this book, Solomea. That's the book we're talking about. My great aunt was once a world-famous opera star. Now, not everybody who's listening is probably into opera. I myself was not necessarily that interested or into opera. But over time, I ended up writing this book, and I'll just share how it happened. One day, when I was about 5 years old, I came home, and you mentioned that I grew up in Edmonton, Canada. I came home from school for lunch. I'm sitting there at the lunch table. My mother comes in. She's got the mail. She opens up a letter, and she says, now, we're Ukrainian in background, so she said this in Ukrainian. She says, oh, Tata Solomea pomarla, which is in English, oh, Aunt Solomea has passed on. That's the first time, I'm 5 years old, that I ever heard of her. And generally, our family back then, it was under the Soviet Union and so on, behind the Iron Curtain. She died behind the Iron Curtain in 1952. And it took years for her death to come out to the West, news of her death to come out to the West. And that day was the day I learned about it. Over time, I did not know anything about this opera star, and I wasn't interested in opera, to tell you the truth. But we traveled to Ukraine, and my mother told the story about this opera star to me when we traveled together in Ukraine. And what I learned was that she was a world-famous opera star, something like Maria Callas was recently. People who are in the opera world know the name Maria Callas, the soprano. Well, this lady was before Maria Callas. And to draw a kind of analogy for those people who are into opera, not everybody is, but for those who are, like Pavarotti, who was the world's greatest tenor until he died, was a sort of descendant of the previous Enrico Caruso, who was a world-famous opera star, also a tenor. This lady was sort of the precursor to Maria Callas. Now I'd like to tell you why she's significant and why even people who are not into opera might be interested in her story. I'm just going to pull one incident out of her life, and it's the incident of she's a star on the world stage. This is in the first decade of the 1900s, worldwide. By the way, she spoke 8 languages. She knew over 50 operas by heart. Music, lyrics, the whole works. She traveled all over the world. She performed in the United States. She performed in Canada. She performed in Europe. She performed in North Africa. She performed in South America, like in Argentina, in Chile, etc. In the United States, she was in New York in 1928. During the Roaring 20s, she's performing in New York, in Chicago, in Pittsburgh, in Detroit, etc.
Oh, that's VIP. Let's go.
She came. Something of great interest, before I tell you the story, something of great interest is she shows up on the same day that the Chrysler Building was built in New York, if you know it.
Yes.
The Chrysler Building.
Yes, definitely.
There was a competition between the Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building.
The whole buildings.
And the Chrysler got up first.
Yeah.
And she was there when it got up. Back then, Duke Ellington and jazz was the hot music in Harlem. Like it was on fire back then, music-wise. And of course, she was right in it. Like she loved that kind of music, So anyway, That's a little bit about sort of context. So this lady, one day, this guy named Puccini, who's a great Italian opera composer, learned of a story about a young Japanese geisha girl who falls in love with an American naval officer in Japan who's visiting because they're trying to open up Japan. It's back in the 15th century, somewhere back there anyway. And he learns of this because he goes to London for a visit and sees a play about this story, Madame Butterfly's story.
Yeah.
He falls in love with it. And he says to the composer or to the author, I got to have the rights to this. I want to put this on in opera. And he managed to convince the guy to give him the rights. So he puts on this opera at La Scala, which is the world's leading opera theater in the world. Not with Solomea as a lead role, but another lady named Rosina Storchio and a cast. And it's a phenomenal catastrophe. It falls apart completely during the course of the performance.
That performance there.
That performance at the world's leading stage.
Wow.
Collapsed completely. They whistled it down. They hounded it down. The stars on them, of the show didn't know what the heck happened. So much so that Puccini decided, okay, that's it. I'm closing the run. That's it. One show, it's finished. But his heart ached because he loved this opera. So he went to a friend of his named Toscanini, Arturo Toscanini, who's a director. And he says, listen, this thing flopped, but I can't let go. I have to put this on. And Toscanini says to him, you want to put this on? You get this Solomea Krushelnytska was her last name, Krushelnytska. Tough one, tough name.
Yeah,
but Solomea. You get Solomea to play the lead role, restage it with her help. You're going to make it. So he went to Solomea. He says, Solomea, I've got this thing. Now, Solomea was at the top of her fame. She was like, I don't know, Sandra Bullock, let's say, in movies or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? And the guy's coming along. He says, Sandra, this thing flopped with, I don't know who, like, a leading actress.
Everything flops here. So.
And I want you now to stage it, with me. We're going to redo the film and put it on. Well, I don't know about that, But anyway, they were friends. And she said, all right, I'm going to do it. She put her then already famous name behind the opera, took on the role, put on a kimono, Japanese kimono, and kept it on for 2 or 3 months before the opera was staged, just to get into the role. And in 1904 in Brescia, and the Teatro Grande Theater. Now, there's a point to this story. Hang in with me, okay? There's a point to this story.
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm in time.
Okay. A little bit about the opera, and then I'll tell you what happened. The opera is this. As I mentioned already, a Japanese geisha girl falls in love with a guy. Her name is Chiyo's son. That's her name. Falls in love with Pinkerton, who's a naval officer from the United States in Japan. And they go through a kind of a Japanese ceremony as if they're getting married, and they have a romantic relationship. And then the guy announces, you know what, I'm being called back to America. I'm afraid I have to go. And she said, well, but, what about me or whatever? And he says, well, no, I'll come back someday. I'll come back, I promise. He leaves. He does not know she's pregnant. She gives birth to his son. And she's waiting for him. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. No return. Finally, he returns a few years later. But, surprise, with an American wife in tow. And as they meet again, Chiyo's son and Pinkerton have a discussion along the lines of what's going to happen to this boy? What is his future? Is he to stay in Japan and be the son of a geisha girl? Or is he going to go to America with his father albeit with a stepmother, and live a life in America. And they decide he should go with Pinkerton. And in the opera, in one of the final scenes, she pulls the little boy off to the side to say goodbye. And she says these words to the boy. She says, "Look at this face. It is the face of your mother. Remember it. You'll never see it again." And he goes off stage, and she commits suicide. That's how the opera ends. Powerful, powerful, powerful story. But Solomea had this problem. She was in her early 30s, and she had to play a teenager to be Chiyo-Chiyo-san. But she had a spectacular voice, a voice very unique. And so when she performed, the audience almost immediately got captivated by the voice and her acting ability. And they got brought right into the opera, so much so that there were standing ovations already right in the first act. And by the time the opera finished, they had 7 standing ovations for the performers, and Puccini was dragged out with the performers to take a bow. And then it went on to world fame, to be one of the great operas to this day. To this day, it's one of the great, people see this opera over and over again. So that's her story, Solomea's story, and that's part of the book.
If you guys are just tuning in, Andy has this broken down exactly the inspiration behind telling his great aunt's story. Now, it's an opera. His great aunt got to live a full life at 80 years old. And so much is in there. I can only imagine. The book is probably more about opera, probably about like ambition, perseverance, exactly. Breaking glass ceilings. How do you see those themes connecting to your work in immigration law?
Well, that's a great question again, Dave. Here's the answer the way I see it. My life is all about helping clients improve their lives through immigration. That's what I do for a living. And I often tell my staff this story to kind of emphasize what we're doing. I say, imagine 3 guys are building a cement wall. And you go to the first one, you say, "What are you doing?" The guy says, "I'm making $10 an hour." You go to the second, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm building this wall." You go to the third, "Oh, I'm building a cathedral." Same work, same remuneration, but 3 mindsets. So you can say, like, what do I do for a living? I answer phone calls, I fill in forms, I talk to people, I look after supplies, I work on my computer, etc. That's one way of looking at it. But the way I want myself and my staff to look at it is we are changing lives, the lives of the people we help. Not their lives alone, but their lives and their families forever for the better. That's what we do for a living.
Oh, Andy. If you guys are just tuning in, please, you guys got to go to the site. So pacelawfirm.com, right?
Yes.
And that is specifically for the main job that's right. Getting everything going on. If you guys have any immigration thoughts or something like that, based out of Canada and the United States. So I'm not sure if you deal with anybody trying to come to the States from another country
anywhere,
as well.
Anywhere to the U.S., anywhere to Canada.
The world is crazy right now with immigration, super politics. a bunch of people that come out of the woodworks, so what we call here in the United States, are complaining about the documentations, the way that people come in the country, the way that people leave the country as well. If you were to change these policies in your own thing, I mean, I know that takes like hours and hours and probably years of figuring that out. Have you thought about that? If you had the chance?
Yeah.
What would be some things that you would like?
Okay.
This would probably work better.
Okay. I'm going to give you a small suggestion, then a larger suggestion. Small one. If a couple falls in love, wants to bring one of the couple over to the United States or Canada, for that matter also. My view is, if they can produce a bona fide marriage certificate, like especially from, say, like English Commonwealth countries or the Francophonie, like countries that are by and large stable and either democratic or at least, human or have a human face and by and large trustworthy. If you can produce a marriage certificate and if you can produce a police clearance for the spouse overseas, that person should be allowed to come to the United States or Canada immediately on producing those things to be with the spouse, conditionally on everything else checking out. Now, probably you need a police record, maybe a medical clearance, and a marriage certificate to get to that point. But if you've got those things, I don't know why they have to wait for a year, 2 years, 5 years to come to the U.S. Just that's good enough for me. I think I don't understand why.
If they don't, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
So and I'm saying this as a dad right now. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I'm saying this as a dad. At any time here that we're dealing with putting our children in certain situations, they literally ask for proof of ID, a medical record, and you have to check yes or no if you have any police problems.
Yeah.
Any situation, doesn't matter. Put them on the team, put them in school, put them on a trip somewhere.
Total sense.
It's just like, but that's exactly what it is. It's putting my human with other humans.
Yeah.
And they go and venture off and have fun, have a experience, and then, hold themselves accountable or whatever.
So that's a small example.
Very small, yeah.
Now, there'll be exceptions. There are countries that are known for fraud, and you can't rely on that.
And that's why I understand when you said, the country has to be stable and incredible, because people do try to get away with a lot of things.
Yeah. So that's one area. Now the broader area, which is big picture. Okay, what's happening here? Let's talk about America in particular. I'm not going to talk about politics inside of America. I don't want to touch that right at the moment. We're just going to talk big picture.
That's fine.
Big picture is this: the world is phenomenal stresses on America for people who want to come to America from all over the world. Millions and millions of people want to come, And the reason is because of war, famine, climate change, poverty, gang violence, rapes, murders, etc.
Yeah, nobody's coming here to see the Yankees.
Right.
They're not doing it for the Yankees, people. They're doing it for other reasons.
Listen, I did a stint of stand-up comedy. I think you could fit in there very well. You got to give it a try. So we know this. It's impossible for the United States to cure all the immigration problems of the world. Mission impossible. Voyage to the bottom of the sea. So there's going to have to be fences or stoppages of some kind at the borders. Not everybody can come in. And America has the right to decide who can come in and who cannot come in. The Congress, not the president, not the Secretary of State, but Congress has the right, and they do decide how many people can come in every year to the United States. No problem with that from my point of view. Now, I'm not advocating, okay, you have to build a fence or a wall or whatever, but you do have to have lines. We're accepting, 1.5 or million people this year into the United States. Question is, who are these people that are going to get it from the millions that want to come in? What's the most fairest way to allow people in and to keep everybody else out? And my answer is, you have to have some kind of connection to the U.S. For example, you're married to an American. Your family's in America. You're a Mormon, and the Mormon church wants to help you to come into the United States. That's a funny choice, but
that is a funny choice.
Example.
I was like,
yeah. Let's say you're a physicist, and the physicist society says, we want this scientist to come in.
Yes,
we're going to help them.
Yeah,
I'm a Joe Public, but do-gooder, and I want to help a family come to the U.S., let's say from Gaza. Okay, I'm going to sponsor them. In my view, there should be a program like that, which would enable such people to come to the U.S. No matter, they don't have to prove that they're persecuted. They don't have to, they have to, again, police record, medical clearance, bona fide connection to someone who's willing to sponsor them and look after them and pay for their travel and be responsible for their resettlement economically as well as legally. You got that. I think there should be a way for such people to come. And a model that I have is post-World War II, when millions of people were stuck in Europe after the war. The United States passed a law, Displaced Persons Act, I think it was called. Now, it had problems. It was not perfect, but the idea was there. And I know my own family came to the U.S. that way. My aunt, not Solomea, but another aunt, Aunt Helen, lived in Los Angeles. And I grew up partly under her tutelage, so to speak. She came to the U.S. because the Catholic Society of Los Angeles, one of the Catholic charities, decided, okay, here's a refugee in a displaced persons camp in Europe, in Germany somewhere. We'll help her to come. And they filed the papers and paid the cost, and she came to Los Angeles. That's it was all because of that act or those circumstances. And she made good on it. She died a millionaire, that woman. So
he's like, where's my $5?
So it's a good investment, for America. But that's my solution. That's just very superficial. I know people will take all kinds of pot shots at me, but, I think it's worth a discussion along those lines.
What you do is extremely hard. And though the laws are there and the job can be easy after doing it for so long, and then as changes come, you adjust, it's hard for people to look at it the way that you have seen it. And I've heard the human side of this coming from you. You're in love, people are dying, all this other things, and probably even more stories. But then there's this world out there, the world of trolls, people who have this thing of when you're in space, you don't see lines, right?
Yeah.
I'm there with you guys. But when you go closer, there is a fine print.
Yeah.
And I think that people forget that from when you're seeing an aspect from far away, that yes, it does not seem so bad. But when you go closer, just like somebody with their feelings, just like a deeper insight on somebody's family, you'll understand more of what is going on once you pay attention closer. Because everybody has this far point of view of life should not be this way. But there's a reason it is. There's a history of human violence that has gotten us to this point. I gotta ask some questions, some advice or perspective, because we did touch a lot. And this one it goes on both of the things we talked about, the career and of course with the new book. For people listening who are either immigrants or working towards a big life goal, I know friends that are. I know you keep mentioning this, and it's crazy because you're in Canada. I have a friend in Canada. They fall in love with somebody here. I don't know why they fall in love with them, but whatever, And for people listening, either immigration or working towards a big life goal, what lessons from your book, Solomea, would you want most from them to take away from that? Okay.
I'm going to give you something that I'm hoping your audience will appreciate. Since you're in the music area, I'm going to give you a little rundown of some of the advice that Solomea used to give her students about music to satisfy the music side of your audience. And then I'll give you 7 rules for success in life to satisfy the other side. How do you get somewhere with your life? Okay. So from my book, I'm just going to quote a few passages. She's teaching young kids about music, and this is her teaching method summarized. And there's a number of points. I'm not going to touch on all the points, but I'll just share a few. She says, number 1, music cannot be regarded as so sacred that it can only be performed with inspiration and exaltation. Otherwise, all your work will be in vain. Number 2, sing with love, skill, and devotion. Another one, if you prolong a high note, how long it should be held should depend not on your trained breathing, but on the audience's endurance. If you hold a note beyond the tolerance of the audience, your singing will never be considered professional. Every work, indeed every rehearsal, should be performed with excellence. As a singer, you must find your own road to perfection. If you are not nervous before a performance, you will never experience your role, and therefore you will not perform as an artist, but only as a craftsman. As a singer, you should inspire the audience not only to listen to your singing, but also to experience with you what you are experiencing in the performance. If the work does not move the audience, the performer has not reached the goal. Confidence in yourself is the foundation of success. In life, you should do everything in rhythm and good tempo, but never in haste. A good teacher is someone who understands the natural voice of a student. Those are a few tips from her teaching method. Now, to cover 7 secrets or 7 keys to a successful life, in my view, they would be the following. Number 1, come on time. Number 2, do what you promise. Number 3, finish what you start. Number 4, mean what you say, meaning don't be sarcastic. Number 5, see, I got to remember these things. Number 5,
that's probably the one everybody
that everybody forgets, right? Give me a minute, I'll remember.
All right, I'm here.
Be kind. That's so important. Number 6, actions speak louder than words. Number 7, make something out of your life. That's it.
Andy Semotiuk. Oh my God. Andy, an immigration lawyer, author, international speaker whose work bridges law, policy, and storytelling. His latest book, Solomea, Star of Opera's Golden Age, is available now on Amazon and Apple Books. You can also read his Forbes articles or reach him through pacelawfirm.com. And just a reminder, today's conversation is for informational purposes only. It should not be taken as legal advice. For guidance for your specific situation, please consult a qualified attorney, immigration attorney, or whoever. I am so happy that I got to talk to you this morning. We were just eating breakfast together.
Me too. Me too. It was great.
I do have so much to talk about. And 40 years of you giving service to human. I want to thank you. There's a lot of friends here that probably came through your firm. And these articles, if you guys don't know, Forbes.com, you could reach Andy's stuff. They're very, very serious topics, more focused on the immigration and what's going on. I do want to talk about one before we go, if that's okay.
Sure.
I have one here. I believe that it is very, very new. The improving proposed H-1B fix. These are suggestions. Did we talk about these suggestions for enhancing visa policy during our conversation?
No. That's
now this is on July 26th. This is the title is called "Improving Proposed H-1B Fix." The key topic is suggesting for enhancing visa policy reforms. Can we talk about that?
Sure.
So, go ahead.
Well, I don't know if the listeners would know, but the H-1B visa is kind of the workhorse of immigration for those who want to come over and live in the United States and work in the United States. And it's a way to ultimately get to having a green card, meaning permanent residence in the United States. So someone, let's say in India or China or wherever, has the goal of, becoming an American, let's say. And a good example is Arnold Schwarzenegger, who came from Austria and who was a world, body lift, one of these Olympic champions with the muscles, and then became an actor and then ultimately governor of the state of California. That's an example. So someone like that wants to come over to the United States. What visa would you use? Probably the H-1B visa. And the requirements of the visa are that the person should have they have to be a skilled worker, which is defined as someone usually with something like a bachelor's degree but not just a Bachelor of Arts degree, but something a little more focused, for example, a nurse or an architect or an engineer or someone like that with a degree in that area. And the problem is that each year, over like this last year, over 300,000 people applied for H-1B visa, and only 60,000 got it. So that's the terrain we're talking about. Now sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. Because I know that earlier we didn't want to touch the political aspect on this.
Right.
But I do see that this article is more of a, I see what he's doing, but I don't know. Maybe this could work better if it doesn't, because it's as if you already and you have done for a while because of your senior advisor role at the Center of Eastern European Democracy. There is this voice for the defenseless that comes from you. This is a very strong point. We could talk about the wonderful history of your aunt. We could talk about life goals, things like that. But things right now seem to be fierce. But you're Canadian, and you guys are supposed to be nice, right?
Exactly.
So I'm like, wait, hold on. Like, Andy, I know that you're mad about things. Like, and you can tell me it's okay. Like, right. Is this part of what has it been a problem for you at Forbes to be able to be this fierce about, I'm going against that right now.
Look, you're right. I mean, I'm unhappy about H-1B visas in particular because there are a lot of people affected by it, and it's the only tool we have. If there were other tools, I mean, there are other ways of coming to the United States. But for the average Joe, just like if you're not a champion, like Schwarzenegger or something, because he was a champion. Yeah. If you're just a normal guy or woman, this is the route. This is the route we got to take. So one of the biggest challenges I have is, why do we have a cap on it? Why not just let it loose? Like, if there's a need for people to work in this, and they're skilled workers, they're not just plain like waitresses or something.
Yeah.
Just let the market decide how many are needed each year, and whatever's needed, and it's temporary. It's not you don't get a green card because you get a H-1B visa. It's just a visa for temporary up to 6 years. It's possible if you're transitioning into a green card, you can get it longer or whatever. But there's a time limit on how much time you're going to have in the U.S. And, some people do go back to wherever they came from, and that's it. Some want to stay, and those that want to stay try to find their way into permanent residence. I mean, it's a topic, Dave, that's very broad and hard to package into 5 minutes.
It is.
But I told you one of the key things that that troubles me is the cap on how many can come in each year, which is very frustrating because 3 times as many want to come in, and 3 times as many businesses want these people to come and work for them than are being allowed, and that's a source of great friction. And then what's happening is the government is trying to channel this sort of road away from where it is now into being decided by money. If you're being paid a large salary, then you're in. If you're not paid, if you're paid a normal salary, you're out. They want to make it basically focus. They want merit, they say, but basically the focus is if an employer is prepared to pay $100,000 for this person, that's okay. But if a person's prepared to pay $500,000 a year, then that guy's for sure an H-1B visa. holder the way they want to set it up. That's a little troublesome for me. I don't think that's the right way to go for recruiting the best and brightest talent all over the world. Money talks, but it doesn't talk everything. It doesn't solve everything.
I wanted people to understand. So when they go read this Andy's article, sometimes you might not see the nice guy we just talked to. Okay, you might read between the lines and say he's been going in, and he has been since the 70s. He's been serving thousands of clients. He specializes in investor and business immigration, as you've noticed that he's talking about companies now and employment. We're talking about bringing people to work here in the United States and in Canada. He's an author now. You guys can go there, explore his books. We did talk about Solomea, right. But we have A Promise Kept, a tribute to a mother's love. And if you guys were here, you can see that there was something deep there that we should get into another time, if that's okay. I'd
love to.
And The Young Professional. These are really good books that you guys need to go ahead and check this out. But not only that, he does go and speech, right? A podcast said something about you've been in a lot of podcasts, man. I think you do this more than me. You do this more than me.
Yeah. It's an area I like.
You can find Andy's interviews on his YouTube page as well. You guys can go on there. And if you guys, of course, this is a professional, so he got a LinkedIn. Go ahead and connect with him on there. And he's very, very involved with, a lot of big organizations. So he's on Twitter or X, go on there and check him out. Andy, thank you so much for this conversation. I had to get that out. I had to. You were like, wait, hold on. We're good. No, because there's a lot of heart in what you do, and a lot of heart does bring a lot of pain and frustration, and you bring it to the text, and we love that kind of journalism as well. So thank you so much.
Thanks a million, Dave.
You
were a great host. Loved being on your program.
Oh, thank you so much. And we'll hopefully talk again soon.
Yeah, I'd love to.
And we'll get a little bit more angry.
So say goodbye.